Yeah, whatever is good for you. All right. So, here we are. So, for people who don't know who you are,
Yeah.
what is your name? What do you do? And then I will fill in some of the stuff you probably won't say.
Okay, yes. So I'm Sarah Althauser, Executive Director of the Boys and Girls Club of Lewis County.
All right. And recently former Centralia City Council, right?
Yep, just finished my 4-year term on City Council.
Yeah. And we actually, I mean, we've known each other forever. I mean, how old were you when we met?
Oh my goodness. I was just thinking of the...
Like 3?
Yes, probably 3. Maybe my whole life.
That. Yeah.
Just thinking of our van jam to Disneyland trip. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So did your dad come up with that?
Potentially.
It sounds like something he would do.
Probably.
Yeah. And like, yeah, we all, so my family and your family and Micah's family all took this like van trip back in the day, like when you couldn't fly anywhere with a bunch of kids. Like it was cheaper to drive, actually.
Yes.
It's not that way anymore. It's cheaper to fly. But yeah, we'd like van jammed all down to Disneyland. And like, yeah, your dad came up with the thing and like we all had to wear shirts that had
so great.
It had it on there. I think, did each family have like a different colored shirt?
They were all
they were all the same
with this like teal and purple. There was the like Disneyland castle on it. I think it said Van Jam to Disneyland with a main man.
That sounds like a Full House episode. But we actually lived that. So yeah, so we did that. I was actually I was driving by the area where your guys' old house was, and I was telling my family, I was like, yeah, we used to go over to the Ash's house and we'd watch Swiss Family Robinson and listen to Carmen.
Yes, that's right. So big.
That's mostly what I remember.
You and Micah were like the cool kids, the older ones. So.
Oh man.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. It's too bad it's not that way anymore, right? No. So yeah. So we've known each other forever. I mean, and so I moved away, came back, and then now you're married, have kids.
Yeah.
You and your husband Levi also founded, run Juice Box.
Yes.
So that's become kind of a local institution, I think. A lot of good stuff going on there.
Definitely about community there. That's kind of our whole purpose.
Yeah. I remember sitting in our living room and you guys were like talking about this idea before you had, I don't even know if you had a building for it yet.
Right.
And we're just sitting around our kitchen table talking about this stuff with you guys. And now it's, I remember when it first started and just had a few things, and now there's like a full menu and you've got events and comedians and bands and all kinds of stuff going on there. So it's fleshed out. I'm going to try to get Levi on because that's the only thing he has to talk about. It's the only interesting thing about him. No, I'm kidding. But so I'll probably save some of that just for when we talk. But I do a little bit want to get into some of the city council stuff, and then we're gonna get into the Boys and Girls Club some. But I'm one of the things I'm always curious about, because I think the more I tell people this is kind of what we're doing, the more they go, oh man, I really am glad somebody's doing this, because I don't think I ever had any idea how local government actually operated. Mm-hmm. Like I think you have this idea from like, The Simpsons or something, that the mayor like runs the town.
Right.
It's like, that's not how any of this works at all.
Yeah.
And, we get so hyper focused on national politics that, we kind of forget that the local politics have a lot more to do with our day in and day out lives. Not that they don't, national doesn't have any impact, but it's our local politics actually have a lot more to do with the stuff that we don't always spend as much time thinking about. So all that to be said, what I ask everybody this because I'm curious, like what possessed you to run for?
Oh man,
because I know that's not something that you would normally do. Like
right.
That's not something that you had any kind of ambition to do.
Exactly.
So
You know me.
yeah, so how did that come about?
Wild, right? Yeah. So I've been really passionate about our community in general.
Yeah.
And, when a lot of people are complaining about things, it's like, well, like, unless I'm doing something and getting involved, like, there's no reason to complain. So I actually started getting really involved in just my neighborhood. Live downtown in the Centralia Downtown Association. And I joined with a mission to help bring, like, for the Pine Street Plaza, that little sitting area downtown. Just the idea of creating a community spot for our downtown. And that's where historically the farmers market was, that I remember walking to as kind of a gathering place with the train, everybody coming in there and just kind of centralized. So I just started really getting involved with that, with the Downtown Association, and people started saying, hey, like, I think you know how to help like different groups work together. And I guess my background's kindergarten teacher, so I believe in like we can all like figure it out, and we can disagree, and we can all plan the recess together.
Is that like a commentary on like our current political climate?
Right.
We're all just a bunch of kindergartners.
Right. Yes.
Maybe we just need to have. Maybe that should be the next president. We should just find a qualified kindergarten teacher and just
Go
from there.
We can teacher. We can respectfully disagree.
Right. Yeah.
And then, have cookies, play on the playground. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I just started getting involved, and people were kind of like, hey, like, you should run for city council. And I'm kind of like, I don't know, like, the things, right?
Yeah.
But the more I started thinking about it, I was like, oh, yeah, I don't have to know the things. I know the people that do. I can talk to city staff, our community members, and we can figure this out, and I can just be a voice. And then I signed up. It actually was what would have been the anniversary of my mom's birthday. Okay. Signed up, and I thought, she was such a beautiful advocate of community and helping others.
Yeah.
And right after I signed up, I was like, oh my gosh, campaigning. Like, it didn't even click. Like, oh yeah, this is going to be a thing. I
actually have to get people to vote for me.
Right. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
It definitely was not on the bucket list. It just kind of evolved. Yeah.
So your idea of it going in and what it actually was, how far apart were those two realities? I mean, like what you thought it was going to be and what you thought you were going to be doing versus what it's actually like. I mean, was it super eye-opening when you actually got in there and started doing the work?
Definitely a learning the thing that was always exciting, there was always new things coming to city council. But I felt like I stayed grounded, and I didn't join for some big like initiative to like pass. I'm joining for this. It was definitely about community, and that's what I loved about the position. Nonpartisan. It's for all of our community. How do we, I loved when people called me, and I'm like, okay, like let me help you with this situation, and just thinking about in general what could help lift our whole community up. So definitely. Yes, definitely learned along the way, but I definitely stuck to like, hey, I don't know all the things. I'm going to talk to the people that do. Yeah.
And so did the role that you actually play as a city council person, did that kind of match up with what you thought it was going to be, or was it really different? Was it?
I had talked to some people ahead of time.
Okay, so
I made a point
idea.
to talk to like the department heads and whatnot, and city manager to kind of see like, oh, what did I just sign up for?
Yeah.
And so I had a basic understanding of you're going to be voting on things, and some people are going to love it, and some people are really going to be upset about it.
Yeah.
But I just tried to stay rooted and if I'm doing what I feel is right for our community, that's all I can do, and hearing the different voices. So, but yeah, definitely a ton to learn, but I did ask a lot of people ahead of time. Yeah.
One of the reasons I'm always so curious about that is because I had talked with somebody I can't remember if it was here or one of the other places I've lived, but um, they went to go run for mayor because they thought like, oh, I'm gonna clean this town up,
Oh,
or whatever.
right.
And then they got in there and they're like, oh, the mayor doesn't actually do any of that stuff. Like the mayor does all
Right.
these other things.
Yeah.
They don't actually have anything to do with this. So
Yeah.
I've heard of people getting into some of these positions thinking that they were going to have a much more active role in one area or another. And then they get in there and they go, oh, I think I ran for the wrong office.
Oh,
Like,
right.
that's not really what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
So I always think that's interesting. So, and I don't, so in like in the governmental structure locally, where does city council fall? Do you, I mean, because I feel like I'm talking to people about this all the time, and it sometimes feels like nobody's really sure exactly like who's the final say on stuff, or who's the most influential thing in whatever area. Where does city council, like, what would you say is the purview and the things that you're most responsible for as a city council person?
Most responsible for. I mean, it's really localized, right, on
Yeah.
the city of Centralia. And I feel like the city of Centralia has been really great at partnerships and working with different entities, but we're definitely focused on our local city. I mean, for me, safety was one of the top priorities, right?
Yeah.
Making sure we are supporting our police officers and the tools they need, approving things that would help them ensure our community safe. That's, one of the biggest things. People want to feel safe.
Right. Yeah. If you don't feel safe, then there's a lot of fallout from that.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was the
that's
big
true.
thing. There's a lot of pieces on, like land use and development with our comprehensive plan. And of course, when people use our parks and things, people want to feel like it's clean and that they get to use the, use the resources here, and it feels safe and clean and presentable. And so those are just a few of the things that,
Yeah. And so I have a few questions on that actually that maybe you can help me with. But one of the things that I've had told to me about different city council, so you guys have your own planning commission just for Centralia, right? That you work with. And so that covers a lot of the land use stuff. They bring that to you, because I'm on a planning commission for Lewis County, and I didn't have any idea. Somebody just told me I should apply for it, and they would like to have my opinion. I was like, well, if that's what you want, I mean, I guess you asked for it, I'll show up and do that. And it was just really different than what I had imagined. But those are groups that make recommendations. We don't actually, like, a planning commission doesn't actually make any decisions. They just filter out the information, try to get it or at least how I view our role at the county is that, we're trying to filter out as much of the idea, get it distilled down to the points that really need to be decided on, so that the commissioners can make those decisions without having to research the whole thing on their own. We're trying to like beat it up from all different angles, so that by the time it gets there, it's like a smoothed out version of whatever came to us. And so so you guys actually would appoint people on the planning commission, right? And then, if I'm getting this right, this is like kind of a test for everybody to watch and make fun of me about. So, the city council also appoints the police chief. Is that correct? So the police chief is in a city is not an elected position.
Right.
It's an appointed position by the city council. And so they're kind of how many other, like, is it kind of set up the same way how like the county commissioners is, where you have like you appoint people to run parks and the parks department, and you appoint people to run utilities, and you have managers for those things. You would appoint the city manager, is that correct?
So
Or city manager gets elected, correct?
city manager, we did a whole interview process for that. Yeah, we did a community group, the council group, and did like a meet and greet. And so we actually went through a couple cycles. last year to select our so not elected, but
Yeah, that's an appointed position.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And then city staff, they do their interview process for their team, and so it's kind of how in different cities, the structure is a little bit different.
Okay, so there's some variation.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Like some they'll call a strong mayor and some a weak mayor.
Okay.
And
what does that mean?
Yeah, and in our city, so our mayor is appointed by council members will run, and then every 2 years the mayor is appointed by the city council.
Okay.
So in some areas, I believe like they run for mayor sort of
Right.
thing. It is different here, so a weak mayor, in my understanding, is they can't just go and, like, the city manager is in control of their staff. We're not just going to go in there and, fire everybody. Like, there would be a whole process for, like, the city staff. So I could probably learn more about how to say this eloquently, but there's different structures for sure.
Okay. So as far as Centralia is concerned, if I'm hearing you correctly, and I think, I'm a little more involved on the Chehalis and the Lewis County side. We don't do as much. We live in Centralia, but just kind of right on the border, and I'm not as involved in some of the stuff going on there. So I don't know nearly as much about the Centralia structure. I think it's similar. I think it's almost the same.
I think so.
But really, just about the only people you're electing in the majority of the government structure locally is city council, and then city council is then appointing most of the other positions. I mean, you have port commissioners that get elected, but so I had no idea when I came back here that that's how that worked. I think in my mind I always kind of assumed that city council, I had it kind of twisted around where I thought it was that was like a volunteer position. People would just kind of volunteer and give their opinion, but it's actually would be the executive branch of the city. I would say, right? Is that?
Yeah, I guess that's
is that essentially what it is? Like,
yeah.
Because you're actually making the decisions. Like, a lot of people are recommending stuff to the city council, but at the end of the day, whatever you guys vote on is what's going to happen. Am I getting that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And probably everybody's going to be like, that guy's so dumb.
No.
But like, I had no idea how important who you elect to city council is. I do, and I'm a little bit interested in this and just, what your take was on it. But we do have all these nonpartisan positions. Has it been your experience? Because we see this all the time where, like, it's supposed to be a nonpartisan position, but people will be very partisan. You see this nationally and in some other places. How do you feel like that went? I mean, are people pretty good at being... because everybody's going to have a bias. I don't expect people to not think what they think and have opinions. But have people been pretty good about being able to set that aside and just kind of work on the things in a way that feel nonpartisan? Or how's that been as far as your experience over there?
Yeah. So, we have a new council, not everybody, but a few new positions this year. So they've had a couple meetings. But I'll speak to, my experience. We had, this last couple years, I feel like a really, really awesome group of people. I really love serving with them because I do really feel like they weren't bringing their own agendas. I felt like it was really just for all of the people in Centralia. What do we think is really best for our community? And I felt like it really was put set aside, and which I really appreciated.
Yeah. That's cool. I've had a similar experience just on the commission. I think we've got, and we've never talked about it, but you kind of get a feel for how people might tend to vote, just based on the things that they say, but we've never talked about it. Everybody's been so reasonable, same thing. I mean, some of us are leaning one way or another just because of your own kind of experience, but that's the only reason. I said this last night at the meeting. It's like the only reason I've stuck around here is because I feel like this is actually a really good group that we had, or that we've had, that actually can get things done, and they're really trying to consider the whole spectrum of stuff and get to something that, whether everybody likes it or not, is the most advantageous thing that we can figure out by the time we hand it off to as many people as possible. Which is, it's an impossible task. Obviously, I mean, have kids, it's like trying to get everybody to want to eat the same thing,
right?
Just in your own house, and then you extrapolate that out to
that's huge though. I mean,
stuff, but
thank you for serving in that way, because that's a big volunteer position to have, and it's so helpful to have people like you and a variety of this group that comes together, and they're just going through all the nitty gritty details. That's so helpful.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I mean, the same thing. I've learned a ton. I mean, happy to do it. It's not a giant commitment. I mean, I don't want to oversell it for sure. It's like,
it's huge for people looking at the material.
No, but yeah, I think we play the role that we play, and we try to do it. If I'm going to be there, if I'm going to give up, a couple Tuesday nights a month or whatever it ends up being, 2 or 3 of them, I want it to be something that matters. Like I want it to be useful. I don't want to just sit there and eat chips for an hour and then go home. So
right.
So yeah, I mean, you hope so, but so yeah, I was thinking about this the other day. I would love to at some point start to build a visual graph of what the hierarchy of positions even looks like in our local governments, so I can kind of conceptualize it, and then maybe that might. There's probably one out there, but just to understand it, because I didn't have any understanding up until not that long ago that you didn't elect your police chief. They're hired, and so there are some I guess I wouldn't say conflicts necessarily, but there's I've talked to people that go, well, depending on who the city council is, that gives that police chief more or less freedom to operate, because they're ultimately can be fired by by that group as well. And I'd never really thought about that as much. It's actually when we were talking to Tracy about the sheriff position, how that's a unique law enforcement position in the area, because they're not actually hired by anybody but the people. Like the people actually elect them. And so we had talked through some of that stuff, and just kind of it had occurred to me that that it could be a tricky spot, depending on what group you're in. I'm sure there's groups that are better than others and more functional than others, but I think it's good for people to understand what the structure is, because it helps inform what you're watching. Because I mean, you get all kinds of news, and a lot of it's you got to be real careful, especially if it's a headline. I always tell my kids, if you see something and it's not at least a half hour long, you probably don't know almost anything about it. Don't let something just come across your feed, and just go, oh my goodness, that thing happened. It's almost everything in the world that happens has a lot more nuance to it. And it really, take your time, take a step back,
right?
Take a deep breath on it, start looking around and doing whatever research. But
because you look at different news outlets and they're both opposed to each other. It's where's the middle? Where's the...
Well, yeah, and what is all the context that's missing? Because that's, that's everything. What is the context? There's a lot of things you can do for a lot of different reasons, and sometimes it makes sense or doesn't make sense based on the context of what that situation is. So anyways, yeah, I remember a conversation that we had. We were talking, I think right early on when you were in there, and there was some article that was written, and you were featured in it, and you're do you remember this?
I am a hand talker, and I was oh my goodness. Yeah. There was my husband, my father-in-law, and brother-in-law had something already in the works for this land piece, and I was this is absolutely not the reason to run. This is so I felt. I'm but I'm going to be, obviously I'm going to recuse myself, but I'm I'm going to be above reproach. I'm going to exit the chamber while they're talking. And my dad had been standing at the back door the whole time during the city council meeting. So as I'm exiting, I think, I'm just whispering to Dad, hey, you should sit right there by Levi. And it looked like I was turning back at the city council, pointing at them. They just snapped this picture of me, my Pendleton jacket, and all these people are like, she's out to make millions. It looked like I was pointing back as I'm exiting, like, vote for my cause. And I'm like, oh, how embarrassing.
Yeah.
Trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think I always remember that story because it's just so classic, like just because there's a picture of something, it's like, doesn't mean what you're looking at.
Right.
There's a lot of, like the context of like, oh, my dad was standing in the back and I was actually leaving, that makes a big difference. That informs the picture. So I always thought that was funny. And I've been to plenty of meetings where, they're discussing terminology and people's definitions for a term change a ton sometimes. And you're like, I'm pretty sure that's not what that word means at all.
Right.
And
right.
it's like, but they're using it to try to, and the jockeying that happens, and I think, traditional media, I heard somebody talk about this one time who was in media. They were saying that, and this was, probably 15 years ago-ish, maybe, probably about 15 years ago. And he was a sports guy, but he was saying that, as he was looking at the landscape of media, he's like, there's not really any money in just journalism, like just fact-based journalism anymore. He goes, everything's moving to just opinion. And it seems like that's true. I remember hearing that going like, well, that's weird, because we kind of grew up where journalism, as much as we knew, that was like people were kind of lauded for being like really good journalists and being very like fact-based and not, bringing their own opinions into stuff and just following the truth wherever it leads, like that was kind of a tenet of that when we were younger, I feel like. And it has moved to where all the people who are making a lot of money in media, it's all personality driven, opinion driven. The more inflammatory the speech, like the more it's become a formula. And so I think, and it is what it is, but I think as a people, we have to be a lot more aware of what we're watching happen. You can't just go, well, this network from 20 years ago is the same as it is today. Like, they're not even the same organizations. Probably most of not even the same people working at them, running them, not the same goals, anything. It just has the same logo, And so I think that's really interesting. I had a conversation with a buddy of mine that called me up. I hadn't talked to him for a really long time. And he was talking about that kind of a situation. Somebody he knows, had been kind of watching this one channel forever, and they don't get out a ton, don't have a big social network, and so they didn't really realize that it had changed so much. And so, what they thought was traditionally the news is like getting very opinion oriented, and they're like, oh man, and I think it's really good for people to understand. I mean, that happens even on a local level, like even in a newspaper. And I know we're trying to get a conversation with the guy that owns Chronicle,
Chad Taylor.
And just, because I'd like to get his take on that. But I mean, even within, you look at national ones, they have journalism sections and they have opinion sections. They have like sports sections. So like you can, if you don't know that you're reading the opinion section or don't realize that is what it is, it's just an opinion.
Right.
That's different than the journalism section,
Yeah.
I don't know that we're discerned. I mean, do you find that people just kind of...
I think sometimes people will jump to headlines and not read all the information too.
Yeah.
You see that on the Cronline, right? The great thing about having a local newspaper is there's so much access to local things happening, and often they're highlighting really beautiful things, sports and nonprofits and all these great things. But yeah, there are opinion pieces, and sometimes people just read the the headline, and then you'll see all this information down below, and you're like, oh, that's not actually what it even said, you know? Yeah. But yeah, it definitely, you have to filter through. Yeah.
Another quote that I heard that I really liked about that is that, and you know, I talked to a lot of people about this recently, and you know, obviously there's a lot going on, and people are upset at each other over a lot of this stuff, and which I always feel like is a shame because, you know, like you were saying, we can have different opinions about stuff, but then like people, like separate from the things that maybe we think, because opinions change, you know, as people get more information or more context comes about all different kinds of stuff. I mean, you know, it's funny. I read a lot of history, and you'll read stuff about a president, and it'll talk about what people said about him at the time, you know, and like the criticisms at the time. And then, you know, 30, 50, 100 years later, we view them differently because we've had the benefit of time and context, and, you know, to go like, oh, you know what? That guy actually didn't screw that up as much as everybody said he was going to, you know, because we're always trying to predict the future with politics.
Right.
And it's like some of these things I think you can look back and go, well, this has been tried and it played out this way. But a lot of it, it's like you don't know, and then you give it the benefit of time and context. It's like, oh, well, maybe we view that a little bit differently. But I think as a public, you know, like we get the politicians that do represent us, for better or for worse. And I think people on both sides would feel that way, you know, even within their own party sometimes. And I think we're getting the news that we deserve, that we've asked for.
Yeah.
You know, because I think the thing that people don't understand about the market, like the beautiful thing about a free market, is that you have this voting tool every day, all day, which is your dollar. And if you don't like something that a company is doing, or, you know, if you don't like the product anymore, you can just stop participating in that economy, and they will change. I mean, we've seen that, you know, without going into a bunch of specific details, but I think we've all seen a bunch of different, you know, companies and entities where people are like, you know what, I think I'm out. Like, this is just too far for me. And then they go, well, hold on, you know, because they think you know, I think as a company too, I kind of get that, like, they get used to having a certain client base. And then they go, well, maybe we want to grab this group over here too. These guys will be totally cool with it. We'll just keep adding and adding and adding. And then sometimes people go, hold on a second, I'm not sure if I'm interested in that. So I think one thing that's really great about what we have in this country is you can vote with your dollar, like, on a daily basis. And I think that's a thing that we can do. And I think you do see it. I mean, a lot of these traditional news agencies, I think across the board, have seen really steep drops in their ratings. And then it's given rise to things like podcasting and all that stuff where, you know, their format's not set up for context. It's just like shotgun headlines. You know, it's like this thing, and, you know, like, we got to keep you watching through the commercial break. So we're going to say this really scary thing, or like, you know, like, did you know, some scientists think salt will kill you, you know, like, stay tuned after the break for the, you know, and then they're like, oh, not really. Yeah. You know, and there's like a lot of that type of stuff. And so it's been cool to see some of that. I think you have seen a return to, people are starting to return to journalism in that space a little more, which I think is a good thing. And I think it's because, like, people just started going, you know, I'm not interested anymore. Yeah. And so it changed fairly quickly, actually, and it started going the other direction. So, and I think it's the same with our politicians. Like, it's not the politicians' fault that they are who they are. They have been chosen as a representative. Right. Yeah. Like, we picked them. Right. Even if I didn't vote for, you know, somebody here or somebody nationally, like, as a group, we picked that person. Collectively. Yeah. Like, we did it. Yeah. So, you know, that's our our fault. If we don't like our politicians, which I think most of us would say, I don't know if we like barely any of our politicians on either side. There's a lot of that going on where you're like, oh, I'm kind of disappointed with this or that. Like, I just was having this conversation with somebody who's in politics, and there's the reason it is like that is because we are like that. Like the reason that our politicians are doing and saying a lot of things that they're doing is because that's what we're all doing. And I think like we have a lot more influence on, because you hear this a lot that like, oh, we just have a choice between bad and worse,
Right.
And I think people feel that way all the time, which I think is sometimes true, but at the same time they're rising up those ranks because we are voting for them. Like
Very true.
we are picking those people.
We're playing into this whole
So
system.
if you don't, so if you don't like the governor, or you don't like the president, or you don't like we all pick those people. And I know there's some nuance there, and I'm not downplaying that. Like there's some structural things at play, and there's a lot of haggling over that. But I don't know if you feel this way too. I know I've been talking a lot, but
no,
this
great.
been stuff that's on my mind a lot. That there's since I got involved with, and again, like the planning commission is just a little thing, but since I've been involved in it, I think one of the things that's helped me realize is that I think when you subscribe to, if you subscribe to being more liberal or more conservative, the tendency for us is to go, man, I wish everybody just full on believed all that stuff.
Right.
And I want a country of people that are exactly like me, And I think most people feel that way, and that's it. I mean, it makes sense. But I think being involved, it's helped me kind of have a different frame of mind that, actually when you're trying to get to the bottom of things, it's really useful to have all of us that see things a little differently. I don't know if that's, you found that too, where, because then your ideas get challenged.
Totally.
And then you have to see like, well, can they actually hold up? Like, is this a good idea? Because I do think a lot of what happens where people really get at each other's throats with all these different things that happen is that they stop the conversation before it actually gets into something useful. It's like they say some inflammatory thing, or they parrot some they might not even think it or know anything about it, but they just say the thing. And then it's just like, oh, you're an idiot, and how could you, and all this stuff. But nobody's walking down the road of logic or reason or fact and going, okay, so I've said this thing.
Yeah.
Does it actually hold up if we explore it all the way down and don't stop short? Because I think a lot of the arguments that I always have an issue with, I mean, whether it's, politically or science or religion or any of those things that you get into, a lot of the times when I get frustrated is when people stop on the path and they don't want to go all the way down.
Right.
It's like, oh, well, I'm done. This is as far as I can go with this thing. It's like, well, don't you want to see what's at the end of this trail? Like, I'll go there with you. Let's try to see what, if any of these things will hold up. And I think that's where we really run into issues. And I feel like that's where a lot of the really inflammatory stuff takes hold, is when people kind of stop short of going all the way down a trail to resolve a thing, or at least get as close to resolution as you're going to get. And you can still not agree.
Right.
But along the way, you get like, oh, you know what? I see, they're really focused on this part of it. And maybe I don't agree that should be as focused. At least I understand where they're coming from. And I can appreciate some of that. Like,
right.
I 60% feel that way,
yes.
or whatever, and I think there's not enough of that going on. And so I think one of the things I've come to be a little more, have a little more grace for is that there is not really a very fast or efficient way to get anything done in government. Have you found
right. Yeah,
it
is a little bit of a slow process.
It's really clunky. There's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot that you don't know. I mean, I think this all the time. Like, there's so much that I don't know and that I can't know, partly because you're not allowed to do some things outside of the public forum.
Yep.
And partly just because those answers don't exist yet. And you're trying to make a decision that will hold up for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, but I don't even know how good a lot of this information that I'm getting is.
Yeah.
I feel that way all the time. I mean, did you kind of...
Well, so City Council, you have first reading, second reading on most things. And I remember, feeling one way and voting a certain way for first reading. And then, we have City Council the second Tuesday and fourth Tuesday of every month. And then, after you have a City Council, more people start talking to you often. And then I did more research. And then I thought, oh, okay, this convinced me. I'm going to vote another way. People were kind of like, oh my gosh, you changed. And I'm like, yeah, like I learned more.
Yeah.
I'm okay. Maybe I look foolish, but in my mind, I'm operating for Centralia and the best for our community members. And so when you learn more, and I'm okay to say, yeah, changed my mind here.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. I felt like the last couple of years, actually, somebody had brought up about City Council, and this really is about my peers. The last several years have very much been okay to disagree, and after City Council meetings, afterwards, just be like, hey, how's it going? What are you doing this weekend? With somebody that we maybe voted a complete opposite way. So I really, really, I feel like that's kind of unique, right? But I really, really appreciated that where, I could see a lot of the points you made, but I still think this, and that's okay.
That sounds a lot like just acting like a grown-up.
Right.
Like I think it's people get so captive to their, the ideologies change. I feel like there's a certain group of people who are always like their primary goal, and I think that's just kind of a personality thing to some degree, but their primary goal is to fit into things and not to be anything in particular or think anything in particular. So they kind of like move throughout, political life in all these different ways. But I think that's when it gets really complicated and messy, when people, when they believe, and we've talked about identity a lot, and that if you believe that what constitutes your entire personhood or your identity is the things that you think right now, that can be a really dangerous place for people to be at. Because with more information, a lot of times, stuff that I thought at 15 is not stuff I think now, or even stuff I thought at 18, and I think there's a quote from like Mark Twain, and it's something about like, when I was 14, my dad, it was amazing how foolish my dad was, and how little he knew. And then when I became 25, like I was so amazed at how much he'd learned in those 10 years. And it's really just, it's like this, I'm butchering the quote. It's way funnier the way he said it, but it's like, this thing like, your dad didn't change at all the whole time. You were changing.
Right, right.
You thought he was an idiot. He thought the same thing the whole way through. And then at 25, you're like, oh, that guy's actually pretty smart.
Wait a minute. Yeah.
But it's because you got more information and more experience and more knowledge and all that kind of stuff. And I do think that, and I'm stealing this from somebody else too, but I think we have gotten to a place where we are mostly, when we're going out to look at an issue, we're seeking affirmation and not information. We want, and I think that's where the opinion thing has taken over media, is that we're not looking for people to tell us information that will help us understand issues to the point where we can make an informed decision. We're looking for people to tell us that we were always right to think the way that we've been thinking.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a lot what the tipping point has been. People stopped going, I want to know so I don't look like an idiot, to I don't really care what anybody thinks about me. Like, I want people to tell me I'm correct. And they only will go to people who are just reaffirming the things they already think, which is, ends up just being kind of a spiral.
Yeah. No, that's very true. That's definitely happening. And definitely for me, being that I somehow got on city council, it's not the bucket list. I just really believe in most people are smarter than me, right? And so I love hearing other people's ideas and a diverse, like we have a diverse community, even in our small little community. So hearing the different perspectives just really makes it more rich and things that I often want to think about. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, this is how this would affect you. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, and there's things that people will tell me that I still don't agree with, but at least I do have a different appreciation. I go, oh, well, that person thinks that way or feels that way.
Right.
I still think it's wrong, but that's
There's
okay.
some understanding of why they might.
But it kind of gets you out of the, like, that person's just terrible or that person, because we've gotten into this, like, everybody's evil thing,
Yeah.
just because they don't think the same stuff that I think. I think that's a really bad place to be, obviously. I mean, you don't have to be smart to know that's true, but it's not a good thing. I'm going to forget the name of the book. There's a book that actually talks about the psychology behind dehumanizing language and how that all works, and they kind of gone through the history of it with, Nazi Germany and the Russian, the Russian dictators, and even back further before that, how like they would use language to make people not people in the eyes of the general public anymore. And there's a psychology behind it. It's a pretty interesting read. I don't know. I can't remember it. I couldn't even tell you what even close what the title of it is. I'd have to look it up. But I think we got to be really careful about that stuff, going like, oh, this person's so evil because they think this thing. I think it would be fair to say a particular line of thinking could be considered evil, but that doesn't make the person who's thinking it right now an evil person. Do you know what I mean? I think there's differences to those things where people can step back a little bit and go, well, even though I vehemently disagree with this thing, that doesn't mean the person who's thinking that is an evil person.
Right.
Or wishes me harm in any way.
Right.
Because, I mean, by and large, everybody, I say this all the time, man, people just want to go to work, be left alone. They want to go on vacation. They want to watch, some Netflix or whatever. They want to watch the Seahawks win the Super Bowl, whatever it is, like they want to hang out with their kids. They want to go on a hike. Like, I think most people don't want to be talking or worrying about almost any of this stuff. It's like they just want to be left alone. But then, there are people that they have a vested interest in people being whipped up, and I mean, I think you could fairly say that about any side, third parties included. It's like that's the incentive. There's an incentive structure there because you have to get votes to go do the things that you want to do if you're a politician.
It's true.
And I think a mentality creeps in where it's like, I'm justified in doing whatever it takes to get the votes because this one or two things that I need to accomplish is so important that all the human capital that gets caught up in the wake of that is less important. And I think that's a dangerous... I think we just have a really bad incentive structure right now. Yeah. I don't know what you do to fix it, though. I mean, I hate doing that. Like, just even in conversations going, oh, here's this big problem, but,
I don't have a solution for it.
There's no solution, so good luck. But,
right.
I don't know what you do. I think it really does just come down to, like, we all have to be better as voters. If we want better representatives, we have to be better as voters and not get so captured on these things that, because fear works really well in motivating people, much more than pragmatism.
Yeah.
Pragmatism's really boring.
Right,
it doesn't move anybody to the polls.
Little entertainment.
Yeah, like when back in the day when people just used to haggle over tax rates and things like that, nobody got mad at each other.
Yeah.
But then, somewhere along the line, everybody figured out like, oh, well, if you can say all these people are trying to kill you or all these people are trying to kill you, and you get everybody freaked out, it will motivate them. It'll put us in power. And, it's like a whatever it takes, and I think they're captive by some of it too. It's like the stakes are too high. I mean,
No.
no matter which president it's been running, I think every president for like most of our lifetime is like, this could be the last election. It's like, stop it.
Right.
Stop it. It's not going to be the last election. Like, can you, that's like, read a book. That's not where we're at, like, and I get it. Like, people are freaked out, but that stuff drives me crazy. It's like, all of them, just knock it off. We're going to keep voting. We're not there. Like, they're going to keep letting us vote. There's countries where that actually happens.
Yeah.
Like we're not in that neighborhood right now. So I think, and we talked about this last time, I think that I wonder, and we're going to find out, but I wonder if there is a market for reasonable, rational discussions, calm discussion, discussions that are not like as exciting. Like we're not like, nobody's going to yell at each other.
Right.
It's like, I wonder if there's a market for that where we can be reasonable. We can go, hey, maybe a lot of these things aren't nearly as big of a deal as we are being made to feel like they are.
Yeah.
Maybe we can take some emotional control back for ourselves, not give it to the news or the politicians, and just continue to develop as a voting base, as citizens, which is kind of our big goal here. It's like, I'm just kind of, anybody who wants to watch, it's like, I'm trying to figure out how to be more knowledgeable about how all this stuff works. If there's an issue, a lot of times people just come yell at the city council. It may not have anything to do with you, right? So like, and we have that in ours. Sometimes people come talk to us about stuff in the planning commission. I'm like, I don't think you know what it is we do here. Like, we don't have anything to do with that. And so, and if they have a real grievance, like, that's fine. It's just, you should go to the person that actually can do something about that, because that's not what we do around here.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of hoping that through all this, we can kind of help us all be better at being conscientious citizens, and that we can be better neighbors to each other.
Yeah.
But, even so, just understand. I mean, how many times do people just look at a ballot and go, I don't know, have the foggiest idea who anybody is on this on this whole thing? It's like, well, here goes nothing. You just start checking names,
Yeah.
And I think that's partly why such a high percentage of people don't vote at all. It's because they don't feel like they know.
Right.
Which I feel like that all the time. Like, I don't know any of these people. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if they have the right attitude.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to say they're going to be nonpartisan, and they're just going to go in there and be, really crazy and hard to work with, and just a giant, butt face, like every night. It's like, that's kind of what you're trying to weed out. Because having done this, it's like, I can deal with people who don't agree with me. What you can't deal with is people that are just jerks and immovable objects and emotionally immature. It's like, you need grown-ups in the room if you're going to get anything done.
Right.
And it's okay if those grown-ups have really different ideas, because I find we can still get all the things done that we need to do. But yeah, like, how would you even know as a voter?
Ooh, I know. It takes a lot of research, and then you could hope, right?
Yeah.
That I mean, I feel like it really depends, like within our local government, which I have chosen to be more hyper-focused on local happenings. The nice thing is you can meet these people in person and often kind of get a sense for how they live their life, their character. Often, a lot of people locally will meet with you. Yeah. And that's one thing I really appreciated. Kelly Smith Johnston, she has been the mayor for the last couple of years, still serving on city council. She started this thing she called IRL, in real life. And it's like, hey, let's just like meet at Fiddler's or meet downtown and actually have a conversation about what's going on, because online things can get so, dicey and arguing and
Yeah, if you're out there, don't read comments.
It can
Just
get a
stay
little
out
rough.
of the comment section.
Get a little rough.
Yeah.
So I just think the more we can, at least we have local access, start talking to people and seeing kind of what they're about, and really like their character, it can give you a good sense of, are they going to even listen, or is it going to be, this is my agenda and I'm, yeah.
So how would you, if you were advising a voter, like what would you say are the best ways to get to know these people on the ballot? Is there a good way? I mean, I didn't know this either until I was talking with Tracy, and he's like, well, just call them up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was like, you can find people's number and actually call them on that number and they'll talk to you. Like, I had no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, I mean, how do you even find that information if you're somebody trying to figure out who to vote for on your ballot?
Yeah. You have to, when you run for something, people's name or information is very public. And so, absolutely, if I were to have ran again, I would expect phone calls. I would expect to be meeting people, a safe spot downtown, public spot, and them to ask any questions they want, because obviously we are serving our community. And so if someone wasn't up for that, that would be a huge red flag of, this isn't going to be a great fit. Yeah.
So you could probably just get online, search somebody's name, and you'll probably find, so-and-so for whatever position they're running. You could probably get their contact. Is there another way to get people's contact information? Or try to get a meeting or?
Right. Because I was thinking, being on City Council, my number was it was on the website sort of for city. And when I was running, feels like so long ago.
Yeah.
I'm like
it's a long 4 years.
Yeah.
5 years.
Yeah. People definitely called me.
So, like, if somebody were looking at the City of Centralia website, is there like a page there that says here are all the people who've declared to run for exposition, or how does that work? Do you know? Maybe Micah can look this up for us while we're.
Can you give us the information?
Yeah, because that would be good. I know we've brought it up several times on the show, but we actually haven't given anybody a resource or a way, and I don't think there is a unified resource. But I don't know, maybe he'll figure it out for us.
I want to say something, but I don't want to give false information.
Yeah. But no, I think that's important. And one of the we'll wrap up kind of the city council conversation with this. But you brought up kind of the things you were focused on were kind of safety, and that's really was also the parks thing you mentioned. It was really kind of a safety thing. People want to be safe and clean. What? Because I hear that, obviously, especially, I would say particularly in Centralia, I hear that from people just that I meet or I know more than any other issue is feeling safe and the cleanliness issue. So what kind of things were you guys able, or maybe we'll start here. I mean, you can just walk me through it however it makes sense to you, but where did you, how was it, what condition was that all left legislatively when you got there? And then what kind of things, because I think people forget that when you get in, you don't just come in with a blank slate of stuff. Like sometimes you have obstacles you're trying to overcome from things either people didn't do at all or address at all before you, or things that people just outright screwed up, and now there's a giant roadblock to deal with. And that things that are done are so hard to undo and then redo the right way in politics or in local or any legislation. What kind of roadblocks did you guys have for that? And then what kind of things did you feel like you were able to actually address, and do you feel like there's been a difference?
Yeah.
Like, has it actually worked out and effectuated a real tangible change in the community?
Yeah, it would be really great to have like our police chief actually on
Yeah.
to speak to this because
Well, I have invited him.
oh, okay, I'll bug him next time I see him.
Yeah,
He's
and
great.
I do know our kids play lacrosse.
Oh, yes.
So I do know him. He's an awesome guy.
He's great
He's
because
got if he come on, I can't wait for him to tell. He's got this great story about his time when he was in Nevada. I can't wait.
I'll bug him next time.
Maybe
I
he
see
won't
him.
come on now because I want him to tell. But okay. So you can go to the staff directory, and that will tell you your current elected officials. Tucker Voberg.
Mm-hmm.
That's just for Centralia. I mean, the game card list.
Yeah, we should be able to go do kind of the same thing, right? Just go to theirs. Now, is there like an elections page? I know we're not quite there, so some of that stuff's probably not posted because I think there's still a lot of people that have time to declare on some of that stuff. So I wonder if there's an elections page that people can go to and get more information. I mean, I remember when I first came back, and we had this issue when we lived in New York too. You'd get these voters pamphlets, and 100% of the information was like an essay that person wrote about themselves, and it's like,
Yeah.
what am I supposed to do with this? This is not helpful, Like,
Of course, you're gonna say you're great.
yeah, I mean, like the only thing that they could do is really screw it up, but like nobody was gonna, yeah. I think I'm
There you
unbelievable.
go. Yes.
Okay.
It's the page.
So that is elections.lewiscountywa.gov if you're not watching this. And so that'll bring up the elections. And then so they've got special election information for February. So that's going to have any of your upcoming elections, I'm assuming. There is you want to click on that more info for that one? Because what is that? I was at somebody's house and I saw a ballot on their kitchen counter, and I was like,
yeah.
did I miss something? Because
Okay.
I don't have that.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's a
I
big
didn't
deal.
have that ballot. So
School levy for Centralia. Please vote on it. Yeah. Yeah.
okay, so
The 10th it's due.
school levy.
Yeah.
All right, and that's for Centralia.
Yep.
So I probably do have that ballot someplace.
Yeah, you better
I have to
find
check
that.
my mail.
People are coming to the juice box to make calls on February 7th. Volunteer opportunity for people that haven't voted yet. Maybe you'll get a call.
Yeah. Okay, so make the case for the levy.
Okay.
Because if this is something, I mean, this is great. Because if there's a thing coming up that you know about and you have some, make that case. Because obviously you're for the levy.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
so tell me why.
Yeah.
And I have some thoughts. I will definitely play some devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Because there's some thoughts I have about this stuff, and I would love to kind of go through that. So this is good. I wasn't
Okay.
expecting to do this.
I don't know. I mean,
All right, here we go.
we'll see. Okay.
You've got 3 minutes.
So here
No.
we go. Here's my pitch now.
Yeah.
So the school levy, what a lot of people don't realize is how it really impacts like our community. So when we had a double levy failure in Centralia, like that is a huge pulse on what your community believes in, and often like businesses that come in, or my husband does real estate too, people that are looking to like whether invest or move their family or whether they should stay. That was really hard on the city when we had a double levy failure as far as just healthy growth within our community. So that's something that often people don't realize, that correlation where I mean, literally the city at one point, went out door knocking after doing a resolution so they could, and they passed a resolution, the first city council this year too, so they could be advocates for it. But it is huge for a city, just beyond the impact it has on the kids, but for the community. So that's one reason, if you believe in business and a place that people want to raise their families, or people welcoming people that have families. But yeah, not even just people with families, literally businesses. They'll be like, oh, okay, this is kind of like, you're not investing in your future. This is kind of not great. So that was huge, and something my husband has talked about in the past. And then for our kids, so there's a lot of misinformation about what the levy funds. Fact check this all, but it goes towards safety and security, so keeping our kids safe. Also for sports, extracurricular activities, that's something that's not funded by the state. And so that helps with those programs. It helps kids that need extra help, or helps us meet the kids that need more, highly capable kids sort of thing. Because every kid should grow like a year's worth of growth. And so we need extra supports to do that. So that's some of the big reasons why I think it really matters. We saw when we had a double levy failure, kids exiting the school, and it really had a huge impact on our music program too, and our sports programs. And so yeah, it's huge for a number of reasons, because we know kids getting involved in those activities. You had mentioned before we had started this podcast that your daughter's super involved in like cheerleading, and that just, I know for me, I learned so many life tools playing sports, and so cutting those things, I think it just makes less of a rich opportunity for our kiddos.
Yeah. So what's things specifically when it comes to the safety thing? What specifically are those things? I mean, because that's a big term. Like, we want to make kids safe. Okay, well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that actually do, and what would those measures actually be?
Yeah.
If you know.
Yeah, I think there's I wanted to look up, because I think there's a forum that people can call in and get more informed guidance. I'm going to the Centralia School District page. See if they have it on here.
Yeah, we might be able to get this on the big screen
too.
too.
Okay. Because I think that would be pretty important. I know Dr. Lisa Grant also, they're like, please have people call us if they have any questions. So there's the
levy. So if you go to the centraliaschooldistrict.org page, and then I don't know exactly how you get over here, but there's a school levy section and an overview section. You can get into levy FAQs and calculator. Yeah, there's a bunch of links there on the right hand side to take a look at that. So this is obviously would be from the perspective of a pro levy position on that. So one thing that I have always wondered, and so my view on some of this stuff, I mean, I don't disagree with kind of, I don't even know if I would say that. I'm not sure about the premise of some of that stuff, and this is kind of why I think this. A lot of people know I lived in New York for about 15, 16 years. It was 16 years, to be precise. But, they are spending an insane amount of money in their schools, and they are not getting great results. And people's property taxes are insane. I mean, on just, a small, 100 by 80 foot lot, you're paying $8,000 a year in property taxes. Your house is maybe 1,100 square foot. That kind of it might be a lot more now. I mean, we've been out of there for several years. So one of the things that I always wonder, is I think, and this is something that I hear from people. So this would be kind of the dissenting view, is that that I don't know if people are convinced that if they vote to send more of their money to the school, that the school will use it wisely enough to make a tangible difference. And so I don't know if you would ever come across people that are like, I'm not for funding, education, or I'm not for funding children's, safety, or I'm not for funding or, providing a business-friendly or real estate growth-friendly environment. But I think what the people that I know that have voted against this in the past, there's two things I hear. One thing, and I think maybe you can speak to this too, is that demographics are an issue. There's a lot of people that go, well, I don't have kids. And if my taxes go up anymore, I can't afford to live here anymore. And so there's the aging in place argument that I hear a lot. Like, I don't want to move, but I can't just continue to vote for more taxes because I'm on a fixed income and they've already gone up so much, and I want to stay living here because of whatever. So there's that argument that I hear, and I think there's quite a bit of legitimacy to that concern. And then there's the other one that I hear a lot, is that, well, let's say we send more of our money to the government, which is, that's a broad term, obviously, but that's kind of the feeling, is like, well, if I send more money to the government, what's the guarantee that it's going to actually get stewarded well? And I think there's a lack of trust that their dollars are being invested toward that end. So maybe you can speak to that, but I kind of have always thought this about the government in general, is that, just in my own personal financial life, I think, and watching the landscape of people that I know or have been around, and I did a lot of financial planning when I was in New York, and I've done some since I've been here, but I have never seen better management come from more resources. Usually you get more loose when you have more resources. And I'm talking about me personally. This isn't even an indictment on the government, but I think everybody goes, and we keep spending money on this thing or that thing at the government level, and it just never gets better. It almost seems like it's getting worse. And there's a pitch that I hear from politicians all the time, which is like, we're so close. It's my whole life. We're so close to cracking this issue. We just need a little more tax money. We need a little bit more money, and then we'll be there. And then the next election cycle, it's like, we're just about, man, we have this thing just about licked. We just need a little more money. And it's like, before long, one of the things that I used to look at in New York is there was a study that came out that people had to work halfway through August to pay their tax burden in Long Island. So how much of your life are you actually living if you have to take all of 100% of the income that you make and give it to the government in some form or fashion, whether it's federal, local, or state? If you're having to take every single cent and give it to a government and trust that this litany of people that are flowing through the government that maybe aren't even people you would have run your lemonade stands,
To me, this is very localized, though.
Yeah, and so I'm not
a school levy as far as it's for Centralia, and so.
So do you think there's anything to the idea that, because I think there's some real things, like I think people do forget stuff just costs more all the time, and we could get in a whole different thing about inflation, but we'll skip that discussion. But things do just cost more.
Yeah.
There's unions involved, whether you like unions or don't like unions or whatever those impacts are. But there's wage increases. There's the cost of materials. There's the cost of energy. All that stuff is increasing all the time. So I do think, if I'm playing devil's advocate on my other take on that, is I think there are some things that we sort of forget. Like, I was talking to somebody the other day. I was like, I remember going into that little convenience store next to Edison School, and you used to be able, we would walk down there as kids, and we get penny candy,
right?
And I don't know if it was cardboard boxes that it felt like they just ripped the tops of packages off of and just just threw everything in there loose, and you could get something for a penny. And I was telling somebody, we used to go in there and get penny candy, and that's how old I am. They don't even make pennies anymore. Right. You can't even do that because that doesn't even exist.
Right.
But so I do think there's something to that we sort of can sometimes, as a taxpayer or citizen, go how come they got to spend so much? It's well, look at everything else you buy. Everything costs more money. So I do think there's some of that. But yeah, explain. If those are the arguments that man, when is it ever going to be enough?
Right.
because I have stuff I want to do that, like, so for that person who feels like that, like what would your
And I guess
thought
this
be on
is
that?
also important to highlight that it's a replacement levy, so it's not a new one.
So what does that mean exactly?
So our last levy that we passed goes through the end of this year, and then this levy, it's not a new tax. This will be for the next several years. And so I guess that's just, like, I'm sure Micah could pull up all the figures
But
and
it's
whatnot, but it's not a new one.
There was a bunch of debate, and maybe people remember this from the news. There's a bunch of debate, with the continuing resolution argument that happened at the governmental, at the federal governmental level. So this is kind of akin to that same type of an idea is what we're saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we're getting this right, that this isn't an increase, it's just a continuation of what's been going on the whole time. So it's just a contract extension from the last thing that was approved.
Right.
Okay. So if it's not approved, is there something that talks about what that would cost the district? Because I think it would be interesting.
You should definitely have Dr. Lisa Grant. Have you met Dr. Lisa Grant?
Okay, well, get me in touch with her.
I will.
We'll talk about
I'll
this.
like text her now or call her up.
Yeah, we'll have her. We'll get her on. Yeah,
she's
we'll get her on because it'd be good to talk about.
Fantastic, and that's where I think there's a lot of trust if you know Dr. Lisa Grant, if you know who's in charge of the district.
Okay.
She's an incredible human being, and we have great leadership. And if the leadership wasn't great and you're thinking, oh my gosh, this funding's going for this, is it going to be misused? But that's, in my opinion, very much not the case. We have really great leadership.
I would love to talk to her because I went to Centralia School District through my freshman year. And then I went to WF West for a couple of years. Then I did Running Start. So I kind of did the whole thing. I was everywhere. And so I remember all the districts, at least, as a teenager. I mean, I didn't know anything, but it felt pretty much the same everywhere I went. Like it was kind of getting the same level of thing. I think now the feeling is, and you have kids there, so maybe you can tell me different, but the feeling I get from a lot of people is that there's other schools that are producing a superior product. And so that's why there's a lot of people choicing their kids into other areas. So how do, and again, this is probably a better question for the good doctor, but and that's probably would be the better way to go. But how does a school district, if they find themselves in a place where people are like, okay, I don't think I like your product, how do they get from that to a place where they can produce a product that is attractive to people, where people go? Because I think my take on a lot of government stuff is people kind of get into, and I'm not saying anybody's got this attitude here, I don't know, I haven't talked to them, but it feels like in certain places they go, well, this is just what you get. And they don't treat you like a customer, because I can't do that. And you can't do that at the juice box. It's like, well, you don't like this food, go somewhere else. It's like you listen and go, oh, so this would be attractive to you? Like maybe let's see if there's enough of a market. Let's, because we want to have as many people eating here as possible or participate in what we're doing. And sometimes government agencies or institutions within that structure kind of give a feeling like, well, I don't really care what everybody wants. This is what we're doing. And so I do hear that kind of a lot from people as well, that they just feel like, I don't know that we're getting any movement on the concerns that we've had. And so I know on some of the other side of it, like those are the things I've heard that, people are feeling like, well, if they're not going to give me what I need or want, then I'll just take my business elsewhere. Yeah. And I don't know if a lot of these institutions realize that there are choices out there. And so what I hope for is that governments don't go, or institutions don't go, well, we'll just take those choices away. Because choices always makes us all better.
Oh, totally.
I mean, what makes us a better builder is that there's other builders out there.
Absolutely.
What makes you a good restaurant or a good, environment is that there's other environments people can choose to be in, and so you have all these corrective mechanisms in the marketplace that are immediate. That if you try something, like, if it worked or didn't work, it doesn't really matter whether you think it's a good idea.
Right.
It doesn't matter what your ideology is. It's like, are people coming or are they not coming? And, and I actually heard something really good about this earlier this week about, why, you get into colleges, why some departments get like really wacky and other ones don't in the same institution. It's because, like, if you're in the finance department, you have real-time corrective mechanisms in the marketplace, in the real world. If you come up with a weird theory on finance, it'll tell you tomorrow if that's dumb or not.
Right.
But there's other things where, like, those mechanisms aren't in place. A lot of the social things, like, we don't know what the effects of a lot of the social things are that people come up with in a university for decades. The psychology field. And I've referenced this book a million times. People are probably sick of it, but Abigail Schreier has a book called Bad Therapy, and it's talking about some of that. That there was a time where psychology got really popular, really powerful, and we didn't know how that was all going to affect the world. And so now, you see some of these things where it's like, oh, it's having this impact. People are responding this way to these ideas, and so we don't have those things. So I think sometimes institutions get a little shielded from the immediate corrective mechanisms that exist in the marketplace. So what do you think about that and how that relates to this kind of, because I think no matter how you slice it, I think everybody would agree that at minimum, Centralia High School and the Centralia School District, especially kind of from the middle school on, has an image issue. Like, it has a PR issue. I hear this a lot. A lot. So what do you do, and how much of that's deserved, how much of that stuff that got tried and didn't work the way they hoped, and like, how do you think that all kind of factors in?
Yeah. Well, I know I spent a couple weekends ago doorbelling 8 hours, a couple days with another lady, and it was really interesting to hear. Really wasn't trying to convince anybody, just here's a flyer, and sure we want you to vote. Like, your voice matters. And and Dr. Lisa Grant was super gracious. She was like, if anybody has questions, give them my number. Like they should talk. This is, they should be able to ask all the questions.
That's so cool, by the way.
Yeah.
I can't even believe that's a thing.
She's incredible. Like, you should definitely have her on. She's incredible. She's like, I'll give you a number. I'll give her I'll connect you afterwards, because she would be, she's just really, she knows that, there is some work to be done.
Yeah.
And she's been working, gosh, I'm trying to remember when she started, the last several years. And it takes time, because also Centralia District, there's a lot of needs in our community. The amount of need of the kids that we're serving, incredible community members. There's just, there's 5 elementary schools versus some districts where I've worked out in Rochester. There's like the lower elementary school and the upper.
Yeah.
We've got 5 different schools feeding into the middle school and the high school. And I believe the double levy failure had a huge impact on the kids, because like, you'll see it with our band, right? Music programs weren't robust when we had that loss. The sports programs weren't, and they've implemented such a beautiful thing to give access for kids at each elementary school program to, they didn't have this when I was younger, like, opportunities for kids to try like track at the elementary level, to try volleyball. Like, back in the day, like, you couldn't do those things until it was middle school, and that's kind of awkward to try something new. And so they've really done, because the state does not support any of sports programs, 0%. So this levy, and for me, it's like, I'm more about what sports teaches kids. All that leadership, that work ethic, that sometimes you fail and then you keep going. And So I just think there's such an effect of I'm probably not answering your question, but when we don't support in this way, but yeah, definitely talking to Dr. Lisa Grant would be like the key.
I'll get around because I have so many questions. I'll stop because I know that you're kind of helping with it and you know some about it, but no, that definitely would be the right person to talk to. So we'll definitely get her on if we can.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I think one of the things that just to put a bow on this is that I think what the big takeaway is that, you know, go get some information on these things for sure. Hopefully we've got a couple resources that people didn't know about that are on here now, and make sure that you register and make sure that you vote. Mm-hmm. You know, it's so important to just vote. If you don't feel like you're informed enough, do the best you can and just start voting. Just start the habit of voting.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you don't like everybody. You know, I think one of the things that we've gotten to in our society is we place on a pedestal people like, you know, doctors and politicians, and they're people doing jobs. You know, like they don't have to be your moral authority. Mm-hmm. Maybe they can just be good at the job, or they may be the best candidate available. I mean, sometimes if you need to get something built and the person that you would like to build it isn't available, you just go get the next best builder you can find. Mm-hmm. Or, you know, or if, you know, we actually did this the other day. We kind of went way out of our way on our way back from, we went up to Snoqualmie Falls. I'd never been up there before, so it was really cool, really pretty. And we went out of our way to go to this certain like pizza place, and we showed up and they're closed Monday and Tuesday. Mm-hmm. We're like, oh man. So we just went to the next best thing that was around. It was unbelievable. So I think people have to kind of get out of this. Like I need to elect a politician who's perfect. Mm-hmm. That person's not out there. Like can we all just get over this? Like, and let them they're just people doing jobs. Like, I think we need to hire politicians like we're hiring plumbers. You know, it's like I don't ask my plumber what his, you know, moral stance is on a bunch of things. It's like, can you do this? Can you get this toilet working? Mm-hmm. You know, or can you install this thing? And I think, you know, yeah, would you rather have a plumber that's like a great person? Sure. Mm-hmm. Would you rather have a politician that's also like an unbelievable parent or whatever? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, if that is on there. But, you know, don't not vote for people, or don't not vote just because everything's not perfect. The stars aren't all aligned. You know, there's a lot of people in the history of the world, and a lot of people on the face of the planet today that don't get to vote at all.
That's true.
And we have it so good, and we've had it so good for so long. And we still, for any issues that America's got, there's nobody. I mean, people. This is where people want to be. We have it the best that anybody's been able to figure out. You know, let's keep doing that. You know, like, you don't have to be perfect to be improving. Mm-hmm. A lot of I do believe a lot of the things that we're running into as a country during these times where we're getting real hyper with one another is we're working that out. You know, like, we're working these things out, and sometimes it's messy. I think, you know, a lot of people. And I think there's obviously a huge case to be made that it could be a lot less messy than it's been. But things are going to be a little messy when you're working stuff out. I mean, we've all been married, right? Like, It's not always, you know, fairies and blueberries.
Right.
You know, like, it's like you sometimes, you know, you got to hammer some things out, and it's uncomfortable, and you got to change, and they got to change, and all that kind of stuff. And that's just two people. Mm-hmm. Two people that actually do like each other.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Levi
it's like,
and I remember running the ballots in and knowing, like, Levi and I were just going to cancel each other out. But, like,
yeah,
you know, it's like, yeah, we're not all going to agree on everything.
Yeah, and that's all right.
Yeah.
That's all right. I mean, I think, getting to the heart of the matter. So if you're not registered, I mean, we talk about this all the time. Get registered.
Yeah.
And when you get registered, just go vote. Mm-hmm. You know, do the best you can. You don't have to be the best voter. Just get started.
Totally.
You know, I mean, we talk about this all the time. There's like the arc of like learning a thing is like, you know, unconscious incompetence, like you don't know what you don't know. And then I think a lot of people don't vote because they're aware of how much they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like they become consciously incompetent. And they're like, oh no, I don't want it to be my fault. You know?
Right.
But like you got to push through that part. That's the thing we all got to push through. Everybody, you know, it's like that thing of if you want to be great at something, first you have to be good. And before you can be good, you have to be average. Before you can be average, you got to be bad at it.
Mm-hmm.
And before you're bad at it, you got to try.
Right.
And it's like, so you got to work through that progression. Go ahead and try. It's okay. You're going to look stupid. You're probably going to vote for some people you wish you hadn't.
Yeah.
Just get registered. Just get voting. It's okay.
Yeah.
You know, like, would I prefer that everybody votes the way that yeah, sure. But that's not how it works, and that's fine. It doesn't need to work that way. Like, just get out there, start voting, get informed, figure these issues out. It's worth it because I think we've been on autopilot for a long time and just let the politicians run the country. And I think I think it would be best if the people were back in charge of who's getting elected. You know, if we were more engaged, more aware, and so we're, you know, even at the primary level. I mean, I didn't even know how that stuff worked for a long time.
Yeah.
That, oh, well, because I always wanted to be independent. And I still, in my mind, feel very independent. Like, I'm not going to vote for somebody just because they have a letter on their jacket.
Right.
Like,
yeah, me too.
that's not happening.
Yeah.
Even if I tend to vote one way more often than anything. It's like, but I figured out at a certain point, well, if you're independent, you don't get to vote in the primaries. So then, now I'm not even controlling what caliber of candidate, or I'm not participating. I don't have any control, but I'm not participating in the caliber of candidates that are even coming out for me to vote for. And so at a certain point, I said, well, you know, there's one side I generally vote for. Like, I need to get involved before so that I'm not just getting candidates I don't like all the time.
Right.
And so I think the more you know and you kind of figure that stuff out, and the more involved you can be. And I, you know, and I mean, everybody's watching this, you know, as we go through this process, but there's still so much I don't know and so much I want to learn. But like, let's just get on with doing that, you know? Like, I think there's a lot more that we all agree with, especially on a local level. And if we can focus on the, you know, 70 to 80% of the stuff, everybody wants to be safe. Everybody wants to, you know, have clean parks, you know? Everybody wants the freeways to not have trash on them, you know? Like, everybody wants that stuff, you know? So maybe we can hammer out the last few things. You know, we all agree on the symptoms, and maybe we don't all agree on the prescription, but I think we can get to something that works. You know, we should be able to. Well, we got it if we want it to be a place we want to keep living. So,
Totally.
yeah. So get out and vote, do that stuff. So I do want to, obviously, before we get out of here, and I want to give you plenty of time to do this. We don't have any kind of schedule, so it's a beautiful thing about doing this is, and we'll have spots where people can drop into any part of the conversation they want. But so you also, the main hat that you have now, I mean, aside from being, you know, a wife and a mom and a business owner and all these other 100 things you do, but like, this is kind of your big passion project at this point, right? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so Boys and Girls Club
Yes.
of Lewis County. So tell me what that is, because I know what it is, like, as far as driving past it.
Right,
And,
right.
you know, but like, what is the deal with it?
Yeah. So, not everybody knows we have our standalone site in JAlves, and then we actually serve kids out of Jefferson Lincoln School in Centralia too, and we have the United Learning Center and the Works, which is a big collaborative project. But basically, our motto is "When school's out, club's in," and we are there to help the kids that need us the most, to be productive, caring community members, and so. Right now, we serve kids after school hours. So the school, we have great relationships with both schools. They get bused over to both sites, and I believe it was a couple years ago in JAlves, there was a grant-funded program where kids got to go to a before-school program, And that went away. So we started getting people to reach out to us as the solution. Like, okay, there's so many people in our community that actually need to commute to work. And they're like, what do I do with my kid? Because the elementary schools start a little bit later. So, so it was really cool that the community saw us as a solution to help out. And so out of that became, we have a morning program now in JAlves. And that's been huge. So kids can get dropped off as early as 6:30 in the morning. And then the bus comes and picks them up afterwards to get them to school. And then during summer, this last year, we served kids 11 hours a day for a 10-week program. And also during breaks like spring break, winter break. We know that there's not a lot of opportunities for school-aged kids. And so we're just kind of that solution. At our JAlves site, we serve kids from kindergarten all the way up through high school. And so far at Centralia, the elementary school, which elementary in Centralia goes up to 6th grade. And really for us, we feel that we know that the kids need, like we've talked to a lot of businesses, like what do people need, these days? And it's a lot of those soft skills. And so I actually, a couple weekends ago, we have our Youth of the Year that's going to be competing in the state competition, but we went on a retreat with several other boys and girls clubs from around Washington State. And it was really cool. They got to work on like interviewing skills. They got to work on public speaking, had multiple opportunities. The girl that I took, it was super cool. She was so nervous. And when we made a stop and we were caravanning following like the Thurston County, like multiple groups. And, it was just her coming up with me and my site director. And she's like, oh my goodness, there's a lot of kids. And I'm like, I got to break it to her. There's going to be more kids. And so she started off the, just so afraid and so scared. And by the end of it, she was a different girl. She didn't want to leave. She was given the certificate. What was it called? It was like 5 Masters of Wounds to Wisdom. And she said, I saw you in the back. And she said, you were crying. I was like, yeah, my eyes were leaking. It's really a full circle moment for me too. Cause back in the day, Levi was a young life leader out in Alaska, and we had her mom in the group. And so I'm like, okay, I'm old now.
That's
like
crazy,
she's a freshman. But it was so cool to hear her story of just all the struggles and just her vulnerability, and see like she's got a purpose, she's got direction. And when she came back to the clubhouse, she found our chief operating officer. That's new for us. We have that now. And she sought her out, and she said, boy, she was standing a little bit taller, like super excited to share, and super excited to just pass this on to other kids in our group. So it's pretty cool. Like for some of our kids, it's pretty life-changing. And we're just so happy that they have like, it's like a club, like a family, right? Like during the summer, we partnered with both our schools to be able to also get food for these kids. And so, just when those basic needs are met for our families, how it is getting out to work, and just one less thing families need to worry about. Like they're going to be taken care of, they're going to be fed, there's going to be awesome programs going on. We're definitely a big believer in giving our kids every opportunity, all the opportunities there are. So everybody has a different pathway, but we want to, like, we've gotten them onto the college campus. So because it feels so scary, right? Like, what is this whole thing, And so getting them to go to the college campus, and they got to watch a couple soccer games. The college was super supportive, did a tour, and like, hey, this might be an opportunity for you. And they have trades programs. Or we went to our local airport, and Brandon Rakes was super awesome, just showing them different opportunities there and teaching them, like maybe it'll be your passion, or maybe you'll just be more informed with the opportunities in our community. Centralia did a really cool tour downtown last year, and business owners talked about like their pathway, like being an entrepreneur and how they got into it. And some did a demonstration, and some of the kids had never been downtown. So it was like a really cool experience. But we really thrive on like community partnerships. We couldn't do what we do without that. And so that's a big part of how we serve the kids better, by just creating these opportunities and pathways within our local community. And we have, the national program has different guidelines. So we have, because I didn't understand when somebody was actually seeking me, like, hey, you should interview for this position. I was kind of like, oh, Boys and Girls Club of America, that seems so corporate. And I was kind of not like super interested. And they kept talking to me like, no, I think you should interview. I'm like, here's 3 people. I'll call this person for you. Not it. But the more I was like, oh, we're actually obviously helping out our local kids, and the Boys and Girls Club of America is this great resource for us, and they hold us to very high safety standards. They do like a walkthrough every year, safety assessment. We have to give them all of our policies and things. So they're a great resource. But I just learned this is actually helping out our local community, and
So it's a lot more decentralized than you would assume.
Yes.
I've been involved in some organizations like that where it's like it's under an umbrella, but it's like they almost have nothing to do with each other.
Right.
They're very localized and very decentralized, and even so for the Boys and Girls Club of Lewis County. You mentioned something about soft skills. I don't know exactly what that is, but is that what do you mean by that exactly? Like, what are the things that you're focused on in that area?
Yeah. So I think I'm thinking about all the things that you would want to see if you hired, a young person. That often, schools, they're working on so many awesome things. They're working on math and reading and writing, and they're building all this. Like, we're a great partnership. We have a great partnership with our schools, but we just have a lot of time, right, to be able to come alongside our community after school hours, and so. Service opportunities, interview skills, and making sure, our youth of the year that was so scared, and now she was able to speak in front of people and present. And so some of those skills. And then one of our huge initiatives is like the STEAM program that encompasses, the science, maths, and arts. That's the A in the STEAM. And so we feel like we get to give kids an opportunity to try out things that they didn't realize they were going to, enjoy. And so we piloted a Lego room this last year during the summer. And of course that was a hit. Right. And so then we were able to get a grant and it's going to be set up this year of Lego robotics, and then resources for our staff to do these really cool programmings. And I know some of my kids that are really into building, they actually helped my husband. Well, they did it themselves, built this whole thing. And somebody's like, yeah, I know how to follow the directions in Legos. It translates. Yeah. So, and then we were creating this, we do a lot of science. I'm a big believer in when kids can have the freedom to experiment, and sometimes you try something and then you're like, oh, that didn't work out. But then you try something else, and just not having, I guess my dad really taught me about not having a fear of failure. Really built that in. And
deal.
Yeah, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
And so I feel like for science is a perfect place to test out things and try it again and kind of build this resilience and grit. And so that's been really cool. What our core pillars, I guess, are healthy lifestyles, academics, and leadership. And under that, there's so much that can happen. My background's teaching and loved it, but I'm like, oh, we have so much freedom. So one of the things this last summer, we had what we called our farmer in residence. And so she came to our Boys and Girls Club site and helped the kids grow food.
Yeah,
because
I've seen that.
Yeah,
if you're driving down, it's Jackson Highway at that point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're driving down Jackson Highway, you see the
Yeah, so it was
garden there.
so cool because some kids are like, oh, I don't like fruit or vegetables. But then once they started like digging in the ground and actually realizing like where food comes from,
Yeah.
and working with somebody that's super passionate, Julie Goulette's from Seapod Farm, local, and it changed everything for these kids. They
Yeah.
were like, oh, I think I might try this, like even a radish, or
Yeah.
like it's all been revamped with some grants that we got too. And so that's been really cool. Our healthy lifestyle program. We also have a great relationship with the Pacific Mobile Structures that has the athletic center.
Okay, yeah.
So the kids get to use like a full court basketball, and we have a turfed area to get all their energy out. And again, great team building skills when you're learning how to have good sportsmanship, work with others, and just create these healthy habits. One thing that I really realized with the programming, with the garden programming, we got this grant to be able to work with the food hub to get these boxes. It ends, I think, in February, but we get this like produce boxes, and then my development director is awesome, Shauna Hereford. She does a whole recipe for the families, and then one of my staff even translates it bilingual, which is really huge, especially for our Centralia, a lot of our Centralia kids. But the kids are so excited about these boxes. Yeah. And they're like, fruits, vegetable. I mean, they're just like, you wouldn't think they would be so excited, but they're like, yes, it's Thursday. And look, we have a sheet that talks about like what farm they came from. But I think it's all that programming that they got to do ahead of time that really tilled this for being like, they're so excited, and they understand where food comes from. And Julie even worked with 5 different families this last summer at their house to help them actually make their own square foot gardening at their own house. So it's just been really cool to see the growth with the Healthy Lifestyles program.
Yeah, that it's a totally different thing growing a food and eating it fresh. I mean, like, I got the opportunity to do some mission stuff in Belize, and like when you eat like fresh fruit from like Belize, it's not even the same food as what we're eating here, because
So
like
true.
it's just it doesn't taste the same, it doesn't look the same, it's so much better. I think I talked with Scott Brummer when he was here, just about farming and how, I mean, that's one of the things I really love about our community, is that there's a connection to, the ground, and growing our food, and understanding that, how all this stuff gets here. I think it's a really great thing for people to understand. I mean, in New York, we're close to the city. There's times where I lived in the city, but like, they don't, if you're in a big city, or even in Seattle, any of these metropolitan areas, like, you're really disconnected from how you get your food. And so, I mean, you would talk to people there, and I had a buddy one time, a couple friends of mine, one of them lived in Pennsylvania, and he had his own chickens and stuff. So we're at the office, and I have my other buddy that's just always lived in New York, or New Jersey, but in metro areas. And he like lives in, like in a building, and my friend was like, hey, do you want some eggs? And he's like, well, how long have they just been sitting in the back of your car? He's like, well, they're fresh. You don't have to refrigerate them. He's like, and my friend who's like a city guy, like, he's like, wait, you don't have to refrigerate eggs?
Yeah.
And he's like, no.
Right.
And he's like, what are you talking about? And they're like getting in this argument about like how eggs work. And it was just really funny. He's like, are you being serious right now? Like, he thought he was, and we're like, yeah, I mean, the eggs that you get at the store, it's like they have to be refrigerated, because for when they've been washed, so all the enzymes are off. But like, another thing, those might be really old eggs.
Right.
Like these are new, like they keep for a long time. So I always thought that was so funny. Yeah. But people have no idea. Like, I mean, there's people, I've read stuff where people, like, they don't understand where meat comes from. Yeah. They don't even know it comes from animals. Right. Like, we have people in our country that like don't even know you get meat from an animal,
That's so true.
So it's like, all that stuff is so good, and we've moved so far away from that just in like classical public education. Like we don't deal with any of those kinds of things anymore. Yeah, I think it's awesome to get, you know, just to get exposure to some things that you might not otherwise, you know, be able to see an airplane, you know, and go like, oh, there's regular people that fly small airplanes or those kinds of things. I think the amount of times you will watch a biography of somebody and they'll go, oh yeah, like I watch a lot of comedians and they're like, you know, I had this one album that somebody gave me as a kid and I thought, I can't believe somebody gets to do that as a job, you know? And then like it dawned on them as a kid, I might be able to actually do this thing as a career. Or they see a football player, they see a whatever, you know?
Totally.
And they're like, oh, people do this for work? Like I could make money? And then it just changes the whole course of their life. It's pretty cool. So I'm going to be obviously stating some of the obvious. I know the answer to some of these things, so I'm not as dumb as I'm going to sound. But like, so this is a tax-funded thing mostly, like
so
through grants?
It's a nonprofit, and so we absolutely get grants. This has been
and that's from like the state, or is that like a federal? Because like I'm just trying to delineate between like, is this like it's not coming out of people's property taxes and stuff like that? Like where how does a program like this get funded?
So my development director, in a small organization like ours, we have one development director that works on a number of things. Like grants is a piece of it. It fills out grants, works with donor relationships, and we have fundraisers and whatnot. So there's been a variety. It's been a tough landscape, I would say, for the grant world, for probably everybody right now. Yeah. Like we had 21st Century grant for Centralia for the last 5 years. That because Centralia rings in all the needs are there. It has to be really needs based, and we don't have that funding anymore. And then we had some funding through like state funding that we advocated for. And I just had state days of advocacy. And as a Washington collective, we're like, this is more of a relationship year. Like we recognize the state's like it's a tricky budget year. And so just had our meetings and sharing of all the good that we're collectively doing, but not really a year to make a big ask. In the past, we had like behavioral support specialists, which was huge for our kids because a lot of kids, some kids start their day with us at 6:30. They go to school and then they come to club and they might get picked up at 6:30 in the evening. It's a very long day. And then there's not a lot of time for reset. So that was huge to support just, somebody that can intentionally talk to kids about what all they're going through. We don't have that funding anymore. And then, so right now there's a number of different grants that my development director is applying for and has applied for. The food boxes was one. And then there's some that we find out through the Boys and Girls Club of America that was like, hey, if you have like Panda in our community is huge. They're big supporters, and we just applied for a grant that we're hoping to get that would be a lot of grants. They don't often they don't take care of the operational costs for us, but like if we got this Center of Hope, our idea is to create this, it's all like educational based. And so to create a real hub for our kids one of the things we really want to do is partner with our schools and help our kids like with their reading. I think that's huge for everybody. If you can become a great reader and have that confidence, then that's going to take you really far. And I also know I lost my mom when I was little, and I really struggled in the reading. And for kids that do struggle, and that's really, really, I feel like damaging. I've seen teachers that didn't really quite understand, and kids will often, if they feel like they're not doing well academically, they will save face in front of their peers and act out to avoid looking stupid right in front of their peers. And so if we can come alongside the school's initiatives too to help support our kids in these these areas, then I think like that's huge. So yeah, that's one of the grants. But so there's a number of different grants, but just like federally and state-wise, this isn't a great year for asking for grants. A lot of people don't realize, they think because we're Boys and Girls Club of America, they think we are taken care of often in our community because we've only had our doors open since 2017 locally. They think that like we're funded by Boys and Girls Club of America, and it really is a local investment. And we have a lot of great community members that see like, okay, we want to invest in our kids and help the kids that do need us the most and help them be productive community members. And so we have a lot of awesome, like you can see on the back of that one, like a lot of people that have invested locally in our kids and realizing kind of the programming that we do that helps our local community. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have a lot of private, whether businesses or private donors locally that also help keep this thing running. And then
Absolutely.
So that allows you guys to, I mean, if people don't know, like what is the cost, or is there any cost if you want your kids to be involved in a program like that?
Yeah. So during the school year, there is an annual membership fee, $25, and then monthly for our kindergarten, our elementary program, it will be $50 a month. And then for our high school program during the school year, it's free other than the $25 annual membership fee. Our morning program is more of a specialty program, so that's $150 a month. And if it's you can do like a combination of the two and get a break. And then summer, it's for elementary, it's $150 a week, but that's like 11 hours of daycare, and then for high school or middle school through high school, $50 a week for summer. And we have scholarship opportunities, but we know there's a lot of families in need to where that's something we're always looking for, sponsors and supporters that can help because there's so many families in such need. But it is also, I think, the cheapest thing you can find around for care for your kids.
Yeah.
And for not just, I would say, programs, right? One thing that we are trying to get out there is, for families, they need us, right, for childcare. But what we're trying to showcase is we're not childcare. We are doing like programs that we believe will have a huge impact on our community, on the kids' development, and honestly break the cycle of poverty in our community. And that's a huge partnership with our community to be able to do those things.
Yeah. So how do you, like, what is the measurable, and I don't know if you can, but what is the measurable on, because the last thing that you said, I think is, something I always hear is like, a lot of the issues that are worldwide usually are issues of monetary, it's like once, I can't remember exactly what the stat is, but once people get to a certain level financially, like a lot of the issues that come with a lack of money, or just a lot of issues in general just start disappearing. There's a dollar amount I think somebody had figured out one point, but once any society or any group of people gets to, at least it's not very high, then a lot of the interpersonal stuff goes away, a lot of the abuse stuff goes away, a lot of the other issues that come along with some of these start to just disappear. So what do you, like, since you brought it up, like how does that play in? Like how do you actually effectuate that? Mm-hmm. And is there any way to know what kind of effect that's having, or is it more of kind of a nebulous, like hope you just kind of, we're going to get everybody as equipped as we can, take as best care of we can, and we just believe that at some point that's going to pay off in something?
Yeah. Well, this year we actually have, I would say, more capacity to dig really much deeper because we have our first chief operating officer that's, maybe 4 or 5 months in now. And so We are in the midst of, we've got our board retreat at the end of February, and we have this whole like strategic plan of, not that a lot of these things weren't ever already in motion, but what we want to do is be able to really have this really intentional path to see like outcomes. And so actually we have the first draft, and it's very, we need to get more eyes on it, but like a logic model to where it's like, okay, here's the full pathway, and this is how we know this is happening, and this is the outcomes we're looking for. And so we're definitely set up now with staff. Before, when I started, it was like, oh, okay, I didn't have a development director, didn't have a chief operating officer, and we know that like more of Lewis County needs help. I mean, we get calls all the day. Can you come over here? So I'm like, okay, we have to make sure we can grow sustainable in a sustainable manner to reach our kids, but also, like you said, just making sure we actually have targeted outcomes. And Boys and Girls Club has a lot on this, but we're also really tailoring it to our community because we're a rural community, and so we're formalizing our strategic plan at our board retreat at the end of the month. But I'm really, really excited about working, like I said, with a school and just having like a clear logic model. So it's not just like, oh, we're doing this and doing this, like actual measurements and outcomes with our programs. So, we're digging in deep, having people kind of peer review that and seeing, looking at these programs that we know help kids. One of our goals is like there's some statistics about kids that are in an after school program and are supported with a caring mentor, like just have a caring mentor outside of their home, like that can make all the difference. Graduation rates go up when they're supported with their homework help, power hour, because I'm a busy parent, so at the end of the day, it's like, oh, we have math homework, and so having kids being able to have a structured environment where like there's somebody there that can help you with that, we know the outcomes are, they're going to be in favor of our families. And the kids' success. And a lot of our families, they're awesome. They're just so stretched. I feel like we're an economic driver. They can go to their job because they can drop their kids off in the morning and maybe drive up to Olympia or maybe, outskirts, Lewis County or Tacoma. A lot of them are commuting, and they can go to school and then get bused there and pick them up late at the end of the day. So we know that we're creating this huge community need, and then internally we have a huge mission to give our kids every opportunity at success, and we know that pathway is wide, right? And so so we're just kind of trying to show them all the opportunities.
And I mean, I know I asked that question, but I mean, I don't think you can treat people like widgets, like I don't know that you can always go like, well, if we do X, Y, and Z, then, or if, outcomes aren't what you hoped. I mean, we've talked about this with, the homeless and the addicted, the people that are kind of in the throes of really intense addictions. Like, you can't just treat everybody like they're a car. Like you can't just go replace parts on people, and like a lot of these things are very deep seated.
Right.
Like there's things that, and they're not mechanical. They're so I don't think you can treat, but I think that's something that I'm always interested in when you're somebody working in one of these types of organizations where the results can be really unpredictable. Been trying to get your brother on here to talk about some of that stuff for a while. So, Gabe.
I feel like in one of those sheets it has some statistics where I just can't remember the numbers off the top of my head. But
and if people want to know more, then go to the Boys and Girls Club of Lewis County website and get some of that stuff. And I think as you were talking, I mean, I don't want to get into a ton more stuff and keep you here for the rest of your life, but you got other stuff to do. But I keep thinking, some of these things, we go back, several generations, and we didn't do this stuff because we had, it wasn't so difficult to have a one income house, and so families were taking care of a lot of these things. And I wonder how much just the expensive stuff and the added things that we do now. I mean, we could all live without cell phones, but we're not gonna.
Right.
We could live without a TV, but we're not gonna.
Yes.
And so as we keep stacking progress on ourselves, it also is a burden that we take on financially. And then, I mean, there's a million things to get into with all this stuff, but how do you view that? Because no matter what, people, kids want their parents, and so how does that reconcile? I mean, I say this all the time. I mean, your dad was a huge influence on me, and so I was fortunate to have great parents, but then I was also extra fortunate. Micah's dad was a huge influence on me. Nate Scott's mom was a big influence on me. I mean, I had really great people around me. So this is not to say, just for clarity's sake, that, I think there are things that are needs. Do you ever, and I get into stuff like this all the time, so, but I just think, do you ever look at this as a need that is there, that ultimately it's if you could figure out how to get it to where it's not a need at all, would that be the ideal?
I mean, I think
kind of like when you're trying to end world hunger. It's
right.
Well, try to work myself out of a job to some degree. It's is there an element of that where, I mean, look, if you are in that situation, I mean, we've been in those situations where, those are stage of life things, that sometimes you just can't, it is bees what it bees, you just got to do what you have to do. So it's just not a critique of the people that are involved.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking as a more philosophical societal thing. I mean, there was a time when it was easier to just live the life you were living financially. And so, you were more involved with your brothers and sisters and your cousins, and your parents were able to be around all the time. And now we've got this world that we've created that's got all these really cool things about it, but it, there is a trade-off to it, and everything costs more money. And then we've got all these government programs, which those also cost money, which makes us pay more taxes, which makes us have to work more. And it's so on and so forth. So there's all these things that there's fallout, and some of it's good and some of it's bad. How do you view that, especially in a role where you're seeing those things on a daily basis? I mean, do kids notice it? Do they care
that they're at the clubhouse more versus
being at home with their parents, or that their parents have to be gone so much? Because I've had people tell me both ways, and so I'm always a little bit curious. Sometimes kids are I don't even remember you guys being gone so much, and the parents are just feeling awful.
Right.
I mean, I had times where I was working 80 hours a week, 90 hours a week sometimes. Crazy times in our life over there just trying to survive. So I get it. We were just sleeping and working, and that was it. And I would feel awful about it all day long, I'm never going to see my kids.
Right.
And, and then some, most of my kids don't even remember it.
Right.
They're like, you did what now?
Yeah.
And, but I also know other people that, have said oh man, my parents were never around, and, I hated it. So how much of that kind of stuff do you see, and how much of that is I mean, this doesn't really have anything to do with Boys and Girls Club, but just as a societal thing where we've kind of moved into this space where everybody kids move out as fast as possible and become your own economic engine. You pay all your own stuff, and and then dads are working and moms are working, and maybe dads are working 2 or 3 jobs, and maybe mom's working a couple jobs, and now the family's not together as much, but but we did get to go on that one vacation. It's what are the trade-offs, and how do you see that just as a person with a family, and where where we kind of tend to go materially, our expectations of what we deserve for the effort that we put out in life, like, has changed a ton from when people were like, man, I just hope I don't die today.
Right.
When they first came over here on the Oregon Trail,
Yeah.
like, I hope I don't get bit by a snake while I'm going to the bathroom and die. Or, now we're like, oh man, like, my food took so long to get to me.
Right.
My steak was not real hot.
Yeah.
Like, we're in a weird, and it happens so fast.
It's true.
Even just looking at how I grew up compared to how my kids are growing up. And it's easy for every generation to go like, oh, these kids are so spoiled. And they are. But, like, so are we. And so are the generation, like, comparatively. It's like, how do you square all this stuff? And I think that, like, it's a separate discussion, right? Like, are these things good for the people who need them? Yeah. Like, and is there, but just societally, like, is there a way to get more back to that? I mean, like, are there choices that we can make to get a little closer to that being the priority? And do you see that as, like, a benefit? Like, that would be a better thing for families if it were possible. And I get, like, life's messy and lots of stuff happens. I've made plenty of messes in my life, but like, as an ideal. Right.
I mean, yeah, we were very, very fortunate. And my dad, worked full time. Yeah. My mom was, when she was around, was home full time with us, and that was awesome. But it is so different, right? Where people are struggling to pay rent, or buy a home, and then the grocery bill, everything's up to where it is a struggle.
We're not growing our food anymore. We're buying it,
right?
And we're not, all that stuff. It's crazy to think about, and it seemed like it did happen just in a short time.
Yeah,
where we're dependent on everybody else to sustain us, but we've traded that self-sufficiency for some luxury. And I'm not saying the old way of because that also sucked for people. Like, they didn't have air conditioning, they didn't have reliable heat. People were living till like 65, and they thought that was really old. A lot of the time. So, I'm not trying to say like everything about the old days was better, but I just wonder, family structure wise, like, that it just seems like there's been a lot of narrative for a lot of years about that maybe having a family isn't like such a big deal. And I think that, and that maybe sacrificing some of the luxuries on the periphery, or some of the comforts on the periphery may be maybe even a preferable sacrifice for, this thing that you get from, being really, in a really close relationship with you, like really knowing your kids, really knowing your spouse, and those are easy to, man, I mean, this is not like a sermon on, like, this is stuff I think about for me all the time. Like, am I doing this right? Like, am I making the right trade-offs here?
Right.
And so, like, I wonder if that's just not been super popular to talk about for a long time. Just in the there's a lot of narratives just surrounding everybody working, and that's kind of the height of human experience, making a lot of money so you can experience a lot of things. And I wonder if maybe it would be better if we were more focused on, like, there's these family structures that we can create, and we can do the work to, like, it's not easy staying married, like, it's not easy raising your kids, telling them no. Like, I hate telling my kids no. I don't do it nearly enough, like, and so, like, we've had to make a lot of especially in New York. There are certain times where we just look at each other and be like, this is not living life. I'm driving, 4.5 hours in traffic to go work out in Staten Island for 8 hours, and I'm driving back another 3.5 or 4 hours in traffic. It's like, so for what? Like, what are we doing?
Right.
And I get you get stuck in some spots, but
And there's a lot of families, at least in our local community, to where they don't have the money to do the extra fun things too.
Yeah.
Like it's tight for, $50 a month for some of our families.
Yeah, it's expensive. It got expensive to live here.
Yeah. So
we came back for it to be cheap, and then we got back and everything went crazy.
yeah.
So I get it. The place we live in, we're paying way more than we thought we would have to,
Yeah.
and we've had to work a lot harder to do it than we were intending to. So yeah, sometimes you just get like, oh man, the world changed all of a sudden, and I wasn't in a spot where I could do something about it.
Right.
I just had to take it and adjust. So no, I get all that stuff. I guess it kind of brings me full circle, and we can kind of wrap up on this, but we see this, like, legislature's in session right now, and this is something I see with housing a lot, is that we have a lot of politicians that do things, they kind of do them in a lane. They go, well, there's this one issue, I'm going to do this thing in this one issue. Doesn't seem like they're very well versed on how things connect and how things impact each other. Like there's this thing in like with nature where it's called like a trophic cascade, and so it's like if there's one species, like I saw a thing about this on Yellowstone when all the wolves went away, and like how that affected the whole area, because they weren't killing the deer, and then the deer were eating too much of the grass by the riverbanks, and so there wasn't enough roots to keep the riverbanks from eroding away. And then it's like, so there's this like trophic cascade that happened of like, you take away this one thing that seems like, well, I guess it would be better if wolves weren't just eating everything. And then they were like, oh no, it's actually killing the whole area because it's a necessary balance to everything that's going on. I feel like we have a lot of stuff like that where they're in session talking about housing affordability, and yet like they just continue to do things that make housing cost a lot more money.
Right.
And so, and I think it kind of goes back to some of the other things that we're talking about, like, with when people, I know a ton of people that when they get a ballot and it says, hey, the government would like some money, they just go, man, I'm just done. Like, and so I don't think you can throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like, I'm not saying that, but I think there's a thing there, and like we got to try to bridge that gap. And I think it does go back to a lot of these questions of like, what are we going to prioritize as a society? Like, what are we going to make the most important things? And when we make those decisions, they have giant consequences. It really does cascade. And I think there's some things that seem like they might be obviously good, but maybe they're not. And I think we have to be like really open to analyzing, like, what have we been doing and is it actually working? Should we really be doubling down and tripling down on things that aren't working at all?
Right.
And maybe we just go without in one area to gain something that's a little less tangible in another area. But, yeah, it's a weird spot to end it if we do. But yeah, no, we can wrap it up there. And I really appreciate you coming on. I think there was a lot. I learned a lot of stuff here. I think, again, like, the reason, if I could embarrass you, I think the reason that people are always asking you to do stuff is because you're like a super high caliber person. I have a ton of respect for you. I've known you a long time, known your family a long time. Your family's, everybody in your family's unbelievable.
Got a lot of great people in my family. It's true.
Yeah, I knew your mom a little bit. Yeah. So I'm glad that you're doing the things that you're doing. I mean, man, if you are in a spot where you're not sure, what to do with your kids, I think you can do a lot worse than putting them under Sarah's umbrella somewhere where she's having an impact on them. So for what it's worth,
I have a great team.
we're
I just want to
super
put
proud
that out
of-
there.
No, I
That's
know.
why it's how I do anything. The
You
community
would
and our
say
team.
that. No, I'm sure you do, and but yeah, just no, we think the world of you, and anything that you're a part of, as a person, for sure. And I don't know, we don't talk a lot about a lot of political stuff, so I don't even know where we would fit in on that stuff.
Right.
But just as a human being, just super high caliber person,
Thank you.
we really think the world of you. So appreciate you coming on. And I know that your heart on all this stuff is you just want to take care of people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, your family's always been that way. Your dad was great to me. Your brother's awesome. I'd love to have him on because I've talked to him fairly. We've had a couple good conversations about what he does, and same thing. Just like you guys love people, and you want to help them. I mean, it's just
Parents very much modeled that, and we
Yeah.
had great community that we were surrounded with.
Yeah,
So
we had a very lucky to have the group that we have. I'm always super thankful for it. So, so with that, I don't know if you had anything. If people want to know more about Boys and Girls Club, where did they go?
yeah, so they can definitely contact us. Our phone number is 360-345-1700. Go to our Boys and Girls Club Lewis County website. Reach out. We're always happy to talk, connect, volunteer opportunities. Super excited. I think mentors have a huge effect on our kids. It can literally change the trajectory of a kid's life. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, with that, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having
sharing
me.
about that, and we'll see y'all later.